Welcome to the Prolific Pulse Poetry Podcast and YouTube. This is your host, Lisa Tomei. And today our special guest is Casi Ari, and she is calling us from Florida. Welcome, Casi.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is a pleasure. And because we're on audio, you won't be able to see her beautiful face, but I'm going to share the screen so at least you can see who's talking today. There we go. All right, that is the beauty of this is that, we have the option of using the camera or we can use the audio, and it all just kind of works because of modern technology. So Casi used to live in Nebraska, which is not far from where I used to live in Council Bluffs, Iowa,
Oh,
and
yes.
and she attended Catholic school. I graduated from a Catholic high school, so we got some similarities.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And now you're in nice, warm, toasty Miami, Florida. Wow, I'm a little bit jealous right now.
Yeah, I feel like it takes a Midwestern to really appreciate Florida because
Yes.
there's such tough winters there and they're so bone-chilling cold. So yes, I'm
Mhm.
I'm so grateful to be somewhere warm.
Yeah, now I'm fortunate I live in North Carolina.
Oh,
Um, and
beautiful.
I won't be going back to the Midwest to live. I can
Yeah,
guarantee that. It had
yeah.
wonderful memories, but not planning to return to live.
Exactly. It's beautiful to visit in the summer or in the spring. I always find that the sort of rolling plains to be soul soothing, especially if you grew up around it. But the winters are really tough, and I'm sure North Carolina has some beauty to offer too.
Absolutely. I live right in the middle because I'm in Raleigh, so I can go to the beach in a couple hours, the mountains in about 4 hours, so it's not a bad deal. Not a bad
I
deal at
love,
all.
and you
Mhm.
have beautiful fall foliage there too, don't you?
We do. Yes, we're very fortunate. That's one of the things that I missed when I first moved to North Carolina. I thought I lived in Wilmington and we didn't have the seasonal changes as much, but 2 more
Right.
hours inland and we have more seasonal changes. So I'm real happy in this environment because I do like to see the leaves change.
Yes, I do too. That
Absolutely.
is one thing I do miss being in Florida, but I can't complain too much because, it's warm outside right now, and I think most of the country is fairly cold. But I do miss the sort of seasonal element about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I understand that you had a lot of life changes that resulted in you quitting your 9 to 5 job and you went into a soul-based design business. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I sort of I took a different path after graduating high school. I did attend college for a little while, but I ultimately found that it wasn't sort of contributing to kind of a purposeful life. I felt like it was something I was doing because I thought I should be doing it versus it, doing something for my life. So I
Mhm.
worked full time at a law firm, and it was a great firm, but ultimately I didn't really feel like I was fulfilling my purpose. I think especially people who are writers and artists tend to really feel the need to fulfill themselves in a way that is sort of contributing to the world through their art. Um, and so I had a spiritual experience, which is maybe a story for another podcast. I don't know. It could be kind of
Mhm.
long. And it sort of transformed my life, and I decided to go for it, as they say, and start my own design business and see the world a bit and experience life outside of a 9 to 5 job, ordinary life.
In your design business, I noticed that you do artwork.
Yeah, so that's actually my personal artwork, if you call it that, but I also do brand design for purposeful businesses.
Mhm.
So people who are wanting to come out in the world with their own purposes and communicate that to the world, I do help them with that.
Oh, wow. Nice. And you have this wonderful, these are some of your prints that you have on your website, which are beautiful, by the way.
Oh,
Really
thank
means
you.
a lot. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Um, and I know that I get in my email every day a little message from you. Can you tell us about your little messages that you send?
Yes, so those are called morning messages. I actually used to send, and I still do send for people who sign up on the website weekly emails. But I asked at one point in a survey, what do you want from me? What kind of content would be most beneficial to your life? And overwhelmingly, people said, I want messages I can read in the morning that can inspire my day. So the point of morning messages is sort of something to start your day with intention or thought or
Mhm.
inspiration. I think a lot of us sort of roll over, grab our phone, see who's emailed and called and texted, and get on with our days. But it's nice to have something, if you are doing that, to kind of remind you to ground yourself and to start your day with intentions. So that's the purpose of those.
Absolutely. I know I enjoy mine. Actually, I like having just a little message there, and often it relates to something that I'm, needing to do or need to think about. So I find them very inspiring and without having to read this big, long, drawn out email, which some of
Yes.
them can be. So I love it. I really appreciate that
Oh,
you do those. Well,
well,
you
I'm
have a
so
message here.
enjoying them.
You have this message here on your site about release. It says writing is one of the most powerful ways we can acknowledge and release emotions, past trauma, and unconscious patterns. You talk about belonging, forgiveness, purity, worthiness, power, and existence. So would it be safe to say those are your focus areas when you do your writing?
Yes, I would say so. My writing has sort of been an evolution. I've always been a writer, as I think a lot of writers always have been from the time they're children, they're writers.
Mhm.
But writing has always been my way of healing. And I find that even people who say they aren't writers or they aren't creative can also tap into the power of release through writing.
Mhm.
Um, Even creative journaling, and maybe you do this or teach this, writing without care of grammar or punctuation or what,
Yeah.
if it makes sense.
Mhm.
The Artist Way by Julia Cameron, she teaches
Mhm.
that. And it's sort of a really powerful way to release what you've got inside. I think that we tend to go through our days with a lot of emotions and thoughts and fears and anxieties, and there's so much going on within us that there's a true power that comes from releasing that onto paper and sort of seeing it in front
Yes.
of you.
Yes. I agree. I actually do what I call writing raw, and I just go with, I might read a poem, if I need something to inspire me, then I'll read something or just something to come to mind. And I absolutely do not allow myself any corrections. I just write it.
I
And
love
some of my best stuff has come from doing it that way.
it. Is it's so important because creativity doesn't it does come from the mind, but it also comes from the place of the imagination and somewhere that we don't exactly know. So I think that's beautiful that you sort of allow yourself to just create without editing.
Yeah. And you can do that, by hand or I take the notepad on my computer because it doesn't have any autocorrect or anything in it.
Yes.
And it forces me not to worry about the when you're on the word program, it tells you something's wrong right away. And it gets you out of
Right.
that way of thinking, until I'm ready to put it into Word and actually polish it or whatever. I keep it raw by keeping it in Notepad. Um, so I used to do more handwriting, but I do less of that now because just hands and old age don't always agree with each other.
Oh, oh my gosh. Yes, I'm
But
sure that is tough for a writer, but I'm glad that there's some tools
there
that make
are.
it a little easier for you now.
Well, I discovered that I can talk now to my Word program and it just writes
Yes.
for me. So That's dangerous news to know.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. Do you find that do you have a different creative process if you're verbalizing your thoughts versus writing them in some form?
I think when I verbalize, there's a lot more uhs and ends and all
Yes,
that in there
yes.
than
Me
just like
too.
when we have if I'm doing a presentation, just like I just did, but with, writing by hand, I tend to leave that stuff out. So there's would be less editing to have to do of all of these idioms that I might put in there, but you know, it does still give me the freedom. I just played around with it a little bit with talking to the word program, but I may be doing some more with that because I don't know if you have these, I have a feeling that you probably do, where you just start writing a poem in your head and it just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing.
Yeah.
And by doing that in the word, I think I can capture the essence a little bit more. So that's what I really want to try are those um, like a conversational kind of poems that just keep going once they hit you at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yes,
I love those. The ones that are saying, you have to get me out. You have to put me on paper somewhere that they
exactly.
follow you around during the day.
Yes, exactly. I keep little pieces of note paper all around, and receipts and groceries and everything else with stuff written on them, because I don't want to forget.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I think most writers and poets, at least the ones that I know, do experience that sort of hit or rush of poetry that is calling to come forward and come out. So that's beautiful that you experienced that.
Now, I understand you're working on a book. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've actually been working on this book for a while, and I think it's because I I keep adapting it to different periods of my life. My writing changes as my life changes, the book changes. So I think it's been sort of a combination of like 10 years of work all combined into one with what I feel is the most profound or inspirational to who is reading it. Um,
Mhm.
it has my poetry in it, but it also has some journaling prompts and some meditation exercises. I
Oh,
find that my writing in particular is not necessarily always for me or about me. It it's really about the person who's reading it and what it evokes in them. So I
hmm
wanted to give a space in the book for for what the reader is feeling and their experiences, and if the writing evokes something within them. So it's sort of my book and your book, and it's our book.
Oh, I like that. That sounds interesting. When do you think you'll be having it out?
So my hope is to have it out in the fall of this year, 2021.
Yes.
So that's my plan.
It sounds like a good gift to give for Christmas. I like giving books, and this sounds like a perfect Christmas gift because it has exercises in it too.
Oh, I love that idea. Well, I'll send one to you for an early Christmas gift so you can check it out
Oh,
first. Let me know
sweet.
what you think.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. Yeah, I have a friend that, particularly, just one of my poetry, well, writing and poetry, we both do those things together, but um, she likes things like that have activities to, so yeah, I've already got her in mind for it. So this is
Oh, that's
great.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
thank
are
you.
you going to bless us with some of your sweet poetry?
Yes, I went and tried to pull things that I thought would be fitting to your listeners because I know you have a lot of poets listening who are more willing to listen to longer form poems versus short form poems. I share a lot of short ones on my social media, I think because they're easily accessible and they get
Mhm.
the point across very quickly. But
Okay.
yeah, so I can share. I've got a short one and a long one.
Okay.
Okay. I want to love you, every part of you, your past, your darkness, your vices. I want to cherish you on days your own spirit is silenced to your cry, with the only response the echo of your solitude. I want to embrace you in moments you feel inadequate, and to unlock the door to secrets you needn't hide. Don't you see, darling, your eyes are the most beautiful secret, and I love them all the same whether they curl with a smile or fall to your knees in shame. Let me lift you so you may feel weightless in a sea of worthiness. Let me show you the sun so your skin may be warmed with joy and your light illuminated from within. Let me hold you until your heart aches with glee. Let me love you. Let me love all of you.
Nice. You know, that could be a poem to someone that you love. Could be a poem to yourself.
Yes, I'm glad you said that. That was written actually as a letter to myself. So I'm so glad that you picked that up. One of the major things that I like to teach and sort of write about is sometimes meeting our own needs when we can't find a way for others to meet them. So one really powerful thing I have found in my life and my writing is to write the words that I need to hear. And that is actually part of the book is a lesson, and it is to write a letter to yourself, the words that you've been longing to hear.
Exactly. That's a great idea. I know when I write poetry, sometimes I think, when I go back over and read it, I'm like, would I want someone to write this for me to read? You know,
Right.
it's something that someone else would really, that I would be comfortable with hearing myself personally. And if I feel comfortable with that, then I feel like it's pretty safe to put out there.
Yes. Yes. It's always good to have someone in mind when you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of my writing they are lessons to myself. I remember one time I posted something on social media and it was literally a lesson that I had written for myself, but I posted it to share because I thought it would inspire others as well. And someone responded saying, "Why are you telling me what to do?" And I had to sort of let them know, well, this is my writing that I create for myself. And I just share it in case it also sort of inspires you to find your own truth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that was really powerful that they picked up on that, so they could relate to it. So that's a good thing, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. It was a good conversation to have.
Now, I do see that I have a Facebook page, and it has little expressions on it every day. A little bit of a kind of a sample of what you see in the daily pages.
Right.
Yeah, I like those. Now, are these all things that you just come up with on your own?
Yeah, so these are things that I do try to share things that are relevant to the world as it is. Most of us have been through a lot this past year. Many of us have been through a lot in life. So I do try to share
Mm-hmm.
that are relevant to how people are feeling.
Absolutely. I like this. You need not find clarity. Clarity will find you. Until then, laugh, relax, exist. That's beautiful.
Thank
Very
you.
inspirational. And then I see you're on Instagram. I'm following you on there. And you
Yes,
have your
I'm
little
following you too.
expressions. Thank you. You have your different expressions on there. I like that. I think I had another page. Oh, and it's just your art one. Yeah. It's over in art.
Yes. So many links. The story of a
Well,
creator.
you're out there, There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. And as another artist, I like seeing people incorporating, the two together. So that's great. Would
Thank
you
you.
have another poem to share with us?
Sure. Do you feel like a long one or a short one, Lisa?
Oh, just do whatever you want.
All right,
Do it either way.
we'll do the second one. How can I serve? Clasping at the future like some phantom who always comes and always goes, trekking across the plain of uncertainty, riddled in symbols encrypted in the divine. And who am I in this place where battles rage on the inside of the free man's heart? And the caged man, he fears freedom all of the same. Where moment by moment we race to find the answers, and all along we never knew the questions. We build an identity, and yet the identity builds us. And what's in a name, classifying and separating me from my sister, my brother the barbarian, all of us one, yet none for all. Where do we go? Tugs and Thames lurking behind with right doing and wrongdoing. Or maybe the wrongdoing is not doing. Or is it doing too much? Life's perpetual wheel of conundrums spins on its axis like Earth's halo around the sun. And somehow it all makes sense. Somehow it all makes sense.
I like that. So it's so busy in our lives that trusting that process.
Right.
I like that.
It also speaks to sort of, well, I do think there's people who enter the world with much clarity, but there's also people like me, and I think a lot of other poets who tend to be very empathic and absorb everything going on around them and try to process it into words. And there's so much going on, and sometimes it feels like, how am I here? How does this make sense? But it does. The universe continues expanding, the sun continues rising, and we are here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I can certainly understand what you're relating to there because, as a creative person, your energies just are out there. And sometimes
Yes.
we have to figure out how to balance that so that, we can actually produce, actually write, because
Yes.
sometimes it can be a bit much. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, a bit much is a good word. My mom always called it moody, but I think a lot of writers and creatives use the depths of feeling to create. So
Mhm.
whereas other people are constantly trying to maintain a level of happiness, creatives like to go to the depths. They want to feel the thing that nobody's feeling because it helps them sort of pull out what is within and make art
Mhm.
with it, whether it's writing or words or pictures. So I
Yeah.
think that's something really beautiful about creatives is their ability to feel and their willingness to feel.
I think I lost you there.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. It just kind of lost you there for a second. It happens.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Casey, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
I don't think so. I would love to talk more about your creative process and learn kind of how your podcast plays into your writing processes, your conversations with other writers. How does that play into your process?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question to ask, actually. Well, actually, before I came on with you, I was actually reading this book, Poetic Forecast. This was a lady, Zan Johns, who was on the podcast, I guess, a couple weeks ago. And I got her book and started reading it. When I hear the poetry of my guest, it inspires me. I sometimes find other avenues of expression, other ways of expressing. I also find, like with Zan's work, I'm finding some real similarities to the way I write poetry. I mean, I'm really connecting with her style because it's very similar to my style.
Right.
Um, I don't know if she would want to read mine and say, I don't write like you, but anyway,
I
but I
appreciate.
really have enjoyed being inspired by. I don't think there's been anybody on a podcast who has not inspired me to be a better writer. Um, I listen to the words. I try to interpret when they're reading. If I have the opportunity to read ahead of time, I read through and try to gain an understanding of the poetry. I research. I read a lot of their books, and I try to really gain an understanding of where different people are coming from, and I find that by doing all of that, I'm writing more. I'm writing differently. Um, like an example, it was this morning I wrote 3 poems that I'm sure I'll have to go back and polish, but I'm working on a collaboration with one of my poet friends, and they have already written their poetry, and then I'm taking their poems and writing my poems in response to theirs. And they write a lot differently than the way I write. They write all prose poetry, and I do write some prose poetry, but theirs is pretty much exclusively that, and it's really appropriate because they're more spoken word. And
Right.
so I'm taking, and in some cases I'm writing prose back, and in some cases I'm writing more of a form type of poetry. I write a lot of tanka and um, some haiku, and so I have been doing that quite a bit, um, which is a little trick. I don't know if some people know this, but I use tanka a lot to help me formulate my thoughts. When you're forced to put something into 5 7 5 7 7, in your
Right.
syllables, it causes you to think very carefully about the words that you choose to use.
Mm,
And I started writing a lot of my poetry when I was in 6th grade. I started writing earlier, but form poetry I learned in 6th grade because my teacher taught us different Asian forms of poetry. And so I started at an early age really of writing in that form. And it helps me because I have to have an organized mind about things. It helps me with that. So when I find myself going off on another place, it kind of reels me in and helps me stay focused.
right.
Um, that might have been more information than you wanted to hear, but
No,
you know,
definitely. I
that's
love.
kind of one of my tricks of my process. But I also write, just a lot of free form and then experiment. Um, right now, I'm working on a sestina, which is one of the hardest things in the world to write, which is why I wanted to try it because I like challenges. I wrote
Okay.
one about my relationship with my mother, and I got to the end, I was like, whoa, this is revealing.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was about because my mother was very meticulous, very neat about everything, very organized, and I'm not when it comes to a household. My dream is to have someone to take care of my home. It hasn't happened
Right.
yet.
Because you're a
So
creative. Creatives live a little bit
doesn't
chaotic.
go together. It doesn't work
Yeah.
together.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I was writing Sistina about that, and it's like, okay, it's revealed to me what I don't want to hear.
Oh, that's so beautiful, though.
Yeah.
Are those things that you share or that you will share someday?
Yes, actually, I have a book out called Heart Sounds, and right now I'm getting ready to publish an anthology. There are like 47 or 48 of us that have contributed to that. And I do share my poetry quite a bit in different groups in that, and I'm working on a couple other books. So yeah, it's definitely out there or going to be out there.
Beautiful. I look forward to seeing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I look forward to your book coming out in the fall. I'm
Thank you.
excited.
Thank you. I will send it to you and get your expert opinion on it. Probably ahead
Okay,
of time so I can get your thoughts on it.
absolutely. Absolutely. I do that. Sometimes people send me their stuff they're working on to say, what do you think? I don't mind giving an opinion.
Yay, good. Well, I'm
Absolutely.
glad to be connected with you and to know you.
Yes, same here. So, well, I will thank you so much for being with us today. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too,
May
Lisa.
all your poems be beautiful and all your days be wonderful.
Thank you. Enjoy North Carolina.
Thank you. Enjoy Florida.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.